Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to the Friday GT3 World Championship here on RCI TV for round 4. And we're here at Snetterton. We've come all the way to the United Kingdom from Mount Panorama over in Australia. And we've got two 30-minute sprint races for you here tonight around the twisty and tricky nature of the Snetterton circuit. My name is Ryan Gill. I'll be your lead commentator for this evening. Stewie behind the cameras here tonight, and I'm glad to welcome back for the 4th time in this Friday Championship. Jesse Lee is alongside me. Jesse, how are you doing tonight?
Well, I'm doing great, Ryan. Hello, everybody out there watching tonight on RCI TV. Round 4 action from the Friday World Championship here. And we have something a bit special. The GT pack was released some weeks ago now, and that means that for this Friday championship, we got the unique opportunity to slip in some of the GT pack tracks. Snetterton today out in the east part of the UK. It's a lovely racing circuit, I think most prominently known for other types of racing, rather besides GT racing, but well, I think a lot of what the drivers are going to be dealing with here today, Ryan, is trying to keep it on the black stuff and trying to keep out of each other's way.
Oh, well, keeping out of each other's way going to be one of the most difficult things to do around this circuit. You can see from the track map and obviously from the pictures on screen right now, this circuit is not very wide. And, well, it's going to be mostly a follow the leader game here tonight. Overtake's definitely possible around here. But oh my word, are they going to be difficult. Qualifying for this race, so important. For the 2 races here tonight, obviously, we're going to have 2 qualifying sessions, one for each race. And of course, that means that these guys have to put so much more effort into qualifying. And some of the cars that maybe, you wouldn't expect to do as well around here, if they can find themselves up in pole or on the front row of the grid, they could be in for a very good finish here tonight. No pit stops required for 30-minute races. It's just a pure sprint to the end. And, well, I tell you what, Jesse, it's not just the tricky and twisty nature of this circuit that they have to watch out for. The curbs are going to be another challenge for these guys as well. These British GT tracks that we're going to be seeing a lot of over the next few weeks offer a completely different challenge. Aggressive curbs, not much runoff. And, well, of course, you can already see right here the times close at the top of the table.
Yeah, and that's sort of what you expect from a racetrack like this. It's a tight and twisty track, really only one racing line. So you expect the times to be incredibly close. The excellent BOP that we have provided to us also helps that mix as well. It is a recipe for a perfect storm here today. Top level drivers and a tight, twisty circuit with passing opportunity, but it is high risk, make no mistake. And of course, here, if you go off even ever so slightly, you are going to be in the grass, and you're likely in a corner that turns in on itself. So all of that could spell disaster for you and the pack behind you. But I like your point, Ryan. I like exactly what you said there. If you are perhaps a driver in the middle of this pack, usually if you are somehow managing to squeak out maybe a top 5 position in qualifying with this short format in this track, you might be able to pull off a miracle here today.
Yeah, and a miracle is something that a lot of these drivers are, gonna kind of be hoping for. We mentioned that, well, out at Bathurst, quite a few of the guys that hadn't had great results up until that point in time would have been, ecstatic to get some good results on the table at Mount Panorama. And of course, that's closed up the championship battle as well. We'll of course get on towards the points and the championship standings later on in the live stream, but it's very close up towards the top of the table. I think the top 3 separated by just 5 points at this stage in the championship. And of course, this round tonight, after it's over, will mark the halfway stage for the championship as well. 8 rounds, and well, this is round 4, so will be 50% of the season down. But of course, plenty of exciting racing and exciting tracks to come up. And we will, of course, have another new British GT circuit coming up later on the calendar. My favourite, personally, Donington Park, is on the calendar, and we'll get to see that in all of its glory later on in the season. Practice is coming to an end. Ismail Lebrec in the Honda sets the fastest lap of the session, a 1:44.937, Jesse. And well, I think for a lot of the guys out here today, that's going to set the tone. You're going to have to get into the 44s if you're going to want pole position around here.
I'd say that's a very valid comment there. Well, qualifying is starting. It's going to be at 7 p.m. in sim time, 10 minutes. The short quali session, all the rage here at RCI as of late. And of course, this is just for race one. We have 2 races to get through tonight. This is quali for race number 1. We'll run race 1 and then have quali for race 2. And the last time, I'm going to dig into the closet and get the skeletons out, Ryan. The last time we had 2 30-minute sprint races, well, it didn't go very well, did it?
No, Kyle Army was, well, race 1 wasn't too bad, actually, was it? It was a bit touch and go with a couple of incidents and that, but everyone was fairly well behaved. But race 2, it all kind of kicked off when the 2 Hondas murdered each other at Cheetah, didn't it? Joe McCauley and Ismail Lebrec went side by side through Cheetah, neither one wanting to give way, and of course the 2 Hondas took each other out, and James Parker took the win there. But, well, in between those 2 taking each other out and James Parker taking the win, there was, well, to say a large collection of incidents would be an understatement. The stewards were very much not happy what they saw after Kyle Army, and of course they weren't too happy with what they saw at Mount Panorama either last week, but well, they didn't exactly have a high bar to beat after Kyle Army. We'll be hoping that a lot of these guys will, have learnt their lessons a bit. And, I mean, this is a circuit where you're not going to want to see what you saw at Kyle Army. You never want to see a repeat of that. But this is not the kind of circuit that will allow for that kind of racing. Kyle Army, it's tight and twisty in a way, but it does still allow for close racing and good overtaking. Snetterton, very, very different. But here we go then, on board with George Boothby. He's going to start the qualifying session down towards turn 1. Riches, don't hug the inside here too much. There's a curb that dips down into a pothole on the right. Then he comes up to the Montreal hairpin. Late on the brakes, don't stretch out too wide. The corner closes in on you as you go to the exit instead of opening up. Then he makes his way down towards Oggy's tight left-hander that you've got here. A lot of tight corners that you've got to be so committed on. Runs on the outside curb there. Now makes his way towards Agostini. Another hairpin on this circuit. Has to make sure to get a nice exit here. There's a short run down towards Hamilton. Looks like a kink. Definitely can't take this one flat. Braking applied for this, and then a short run then towards... actually, no, this is Oggy's. It was Palmer, the corner, previously. Getting mixed up there. But then towards Williams we go. 90-degree corner, right-hander, and then on to the back straight. The Bentley straight, as it's actually called. Making your way up towards Nelson. You're going to have a completely blind braking zone as you come into this corner. You'll see it on the left-hand side here. Tyre barrier there. And then you come into this massive anti-cut curb on the right-hand side of the circuit. Don't hit that. It will ruin your lap. Then we get to bomb hole. Make your way around. Then we get to the long right-hander Coram. This corner feels like it goes on for an absolute age, and you've got to prepare for the braking zone at Murray's as well. Tight. Don't clip the curb on the inside. That will send you flying onto the grass. And then George Boothby comes out of the final corner, makes his way up towards the line, and what will the 666 put down for the first lap of the session? 1:45.4, so about 5/10 off of Ismail Lebrec's practice lap time, and that's not a bad start for George Boothby.
No, it isn't. Still, Vason nearly takes pole there, but is about a 10th short. Ismail Lebrec out on his first lap, going down the back straight right about now. But excellent sighting lap around here. This track, very interesting in its layout. It's not the most friendly to the GT cars, and certainly, Ryan, we hear both sides of the argument. Some people love Snetterton as a racing circuit. Others, well, perhaps not quite so much. And, well, I think for these drivers, their opinion of this racetrack will change depending on how their races go this evening. But one way or another, they are all going to somehow have to share track space. Ishmael Lebrec going through Murray's there. Let's see what lap time he can do. Ishmael was joking earlier saying that he always bottles qualifying. I don't know if that's true. And indeed, he does not. He goes to fourth early in the session. Bouquet, the fastest so far at a 45.441. That's about half of a tenth quicker than Boothby right now. Macaulay and Stillvason make up the rest of the top five with Lebrec in fifth place. And this is not what you want to see, Ryan. Stillvason is right behind another car, and that will make him bleed lap time.
Yeah, you need space around here. You can't afford to be held up on a qualifying lap. There's just no room to try and get past someone. And something that I've been kind of noticing, Jesse, is that the Porsche is making a bit of a return to to success around the British GT circuits. Its BOP is quite favourable towards it, in fact, on some of the British circuits, as we've been seeing at, the likes of Donington Park and Alton Park. They're doing quite well. And it seems out here at Snetterton as well. Bouquet doing very well. James Parker, though, goes provisional pole and then is immediately beaten by Darren King. Both of those still in the 45s. Jaroslav Honzig then goes quicker by 0.2 into a 45.1. But Bouquet at the moment up by 0.3 of a second. It would be enough to send him provisional pole. Comes in towards the final corner now. Very, very nice. Doesn't go off track. Keeps it on up to 0.4 now. Bouquet up towards the timing line. This is going to be provisional pole. Is this going to be a 44? No, not quite.
Oh!
45.0 for Bouquet, but it's the closest we've got to that 44 in practice. And provisional pole goes the Porsche.
Well, you said it. We saw some Honda dominance early in this championship, and now it is going the opposite way. We expected that. We predicted that. And all of a sudden, a Porsche that has been beaten up by the BOP, in my opinion, is sitting pretty a tenth up. And we are so close to that 44. We are going to see that 44 here, if not within this next 3 minutes, the next qualifying session. I'm assured of this because they are so close. Somebody is going to be able to break through. It would not surprise me if it was a Mercedes or a Porsche.
So James Parker then, championship leader, by the way, comes up towards the timing line. Is he going to improve? Yes, he is up towards third on the grid. He told me, Jesse, earlier today, if he starts on pole, he'll be third by the first corner because of how slow the Aston Martin is on the start. So I don't quite believe that. But one of the things I am kind of, quite keen to believe about James Parker is that, it's going to be quite hard for any car to get past him here tonight. Not just for the reasons we've mentioned before, but the Aston Martin is sluggish out of some of the slow corners, to put it lightly. And of course, look at Snetterton, look at the track layout. It's basically all slow corners that you're coming out of around this place, and any car that gets stuck behind an Aston Martin is in for a world of pain unless you can breeze past on the straights, but there's not really many opportunities to do that. Ismail Lebrec, though, he's got the opportunity to improve on his lap time. He won't do so this time around, but he does have enough time to go again, and he will, as Joe Macaulay in the background comes up towards the line as well, and Joe Macaulay, 0.006 of a second off provisional pole. The Hondas doing well around here. They're another car that have made an incredible comeback to form on the British GT circuits. And, Joe Macaulay and Ismail Lebrec doing well to put those Hondas as high up as they are at the moment. And I've just noticed that Lebrec's returned to the pit lane. So that looks like qualifying over for the number 67 as George Boothby now comes to finish up his lap. He's up by just under 0.2 of a second, comes up towards the timing line. How good will it be for Boothby? 6th.
Well, the last couple of times by, Lebrec and Bouquet had a couple of things in common. They were up about a tenth. In Bouquet's case, he was up 0.2 down the back straightaway, went into the chicane and lost all of the time. I don't know if he hit the curb or not, but also Lebrec was in the same sort of camp. He had about a tenth, which wouldn't have given him pole, but it would have put him inside the top I'd say about top 3, and he got right about to where that chicane was and lost all of that time. You mentioned it in the lap around. That is a gigantic anti-cut curb. That won't only hurt your lap time, folks, that will hurt your car. That will destroy part of the front of your car if you hit that. That thing might as well be a skyscraper.
So qualifying starting to come towards an end now. We're looking at Christian Larter at the moment. He's in 12th in the McLaren. Second best of the McLarens at this point in time. Cody Pride, who has unfortunately had to miss 2 rounds so far this season, is finally back here for Snetterton. And here comes Christian Larter into the final corner. McLaren goes wide, and is that going to be an invalidated lap? Yes, it is. So Christian Larter, that's going to be the end of his qualifying session. Here comes Alexander Karsten in the Bentley, and this car sitting 13th at this point in time, up by 0.2 of a second. Bouquet, by the way, not improving on his lap time. That means that Bouquet and Joe McCauley have effectively locked out the front row of the grid, unless George Boothby can find a significant amount of time. Comes up towards the timing line. No, he doesn't. 4th is the best that the Ferrari will be able to do. Here comes Karsten up towards the line, sits 13th at the moment. How much will they improve? Is it going to be top 10? No, just misses out as the Bentley only improves to 11th.
Well, I thought he was going to get the suck down the front straightaway there, and he might have, but it was not enough. It didn't seem to make that big of a difference on the timesheet, but either way, just outside the top 10. Not the worst place to be. And as the final few cars, Piffet, in fact, I believe is the final car, and indeed is the last car out on track. We'll see exactly what he is capable of. He's 14th currently. If he has anything in the bank, he has not given up on this lap. He must be feeling good about his chances. No doubt has the live timing up. He's going to hug the wall, and he goes 2 places higher into 12th place. And just look, ladies and gentlemen, at how close the timing is throughout the entire field. This is about as close as we've been all season, and that's either good or bad, depending on how you look at it, Ryan Gill.
Yeah, top 23 covered by a second. Harry Conway just making it, just under that 1 second margin there, and quite literally just under that 1 second margin. But it's nice to see so many cars so close together. And of course, well, we did say qualifying is going to be so important here tonight. We're going to see how true that holds. Of course, the Snetterton sprint event that we ran here not too long ago kind of proved that. We had about 7 cars, I think it was, all in a train. And it was basically like that for the entire race. But you know what? As we wait for the pre-race timer to tick down, I think it's about time we have a look at the championship standing for this season here tonight. So coming into round 4, James Parker does still lead the championship, 127 points from George Boothby with 123. Jaroslav Honzik on 122, only 5 points separating the top 3, as mentioned earlier. Philippe Samard, funny enough, hasn't picked up a win, a podium, or a pole position this season, yet he sits 4th. A testament to his consistency throughout the season. Ismail Lebrec with 2 wins to his name in 5th position. Herbert Frechel 6th. Steele Vason in 7th. Karsten 8th. Piffet in 9th. And Keeble rounding out the top 10. But look at that, 26 points separating the top 8. Then we move over to the second page. Jordan Grant-Smith on 82 points. Bouquet, actually the pole sitter for Snetterton race 1, in 12th place. Verstappen and Belhassain follow onwards, with Willamot, McCauley, Clements, Soldatov, Billy Octane, and Harry Conway rounding out the second page. The 2 Triple R McLarens finding themselves further down the order than they would like. Daniel Jose Jorges finds himself in 21st. Jarosz Fenchek, Tavrayan, Barrier, and Vanak in the top 25. Barrier much further down than he would like to be. Same goes for Shermatinsky. Unusual to see him this far down the grid. Azevedo, Kavaka, Vandenit, and Latta rounding out top 30. And then we come on to the final page, and I believe, Yes, this is Cody Pride, Oscar Cool, and Adam Tompkins. All three of those drivers rounding out the official points finishers. And Darren King and Prendergast apparently not applicable for points, although they definitely did score points in
Last
in
week,
the Bathurst
yes.
race. So
They definitely did.
unusual. We'll have to investigate that one later, but
They
we'll see how all of
assume
that goes.
assume Darren King has points. They just did not show up on that list for whatever reason. But he, of course, he entered in the second round where he did not receive points, and in the third round, it was agreed upon that he and Prendergast would both start gaining points. Just a little malfunction there.
I have it here, Jesse. So Darren King has
Yes,
48 points, and
excellent.
Prendergast has 4.
So
So Prendergast would be at the back of the order anyway, bar Adam
Darren King would
Tompkins.
be about 18th by my estimation, then, Ryan, somewhere in there.
Yes, he would. He would be exactly 18th. In fact, half a point above the likes of Soldatov and 3 points behind Clement. So Darren King is effectively 18th, even if the standings haven't shown that. And we'll have a look into that and see if we can fix that for next week.
Well, there you have it. That is where we stand coming into today. Two 30-minute sprint races in the east of England at Snetterton. And what a race it is likely going to be. A Porsche leading a Honda off of the front row, nearly identical in their qualifying pace, Boothby and McCauley. And we talked very briefly about how important it is to qualify at a racetrack like this. Some racetracks, it doesn't really matter that much. Here, it absolutely does. For anybody who qualified poorly, it's about survival. If you're near the front, it is about maintaining or gaining early and often as you can. So, Ryan Gill, I'm going to pose the question to you. How do you get positions? How do you maintain positions? And how do you stay away from drama in a race like this?
Well, it's hard to judge, Jesse. I mean, when you've got a track that is this twisty and tricky, and this is a very different circuit for a lot of these drivers. I mean, quite a few of these drivers should we point out don't really venture off into other sims that often, if at all. So for a lot of these guys, Snetterton is a very new circuit to them, and I mean, it's unlike anything in ACC at this point in time, kind of very similar to Alton Park in that way, that there isn't really anything like it at this point in time. So it's going to be a very different experience. But around here, I mean, a good start to the race is essential. If you're up towards the front, like Bouquet is, you need to be good on the start. You need to get away. You need to get through turn 1 and up towards turn 2 as quickly as possible, and make sure that you're ahead by the end of turn 3. If you can do that, you've probably set yourself up fairly nicely to run away with it, assuming you don't lose pace massively or make any mistakes. If you're in the mid-pack, honestly, it's going to be down to mistakes, realistically, if you're going to be gaining any points here tonight, any positions throughout the race. And the most important thing, it kind of goes without saying, but these are racing drivers. Sometimes, they do forget at times. It goes to the head in heat of the moment. Just don't make mistakes. You can't afford to make mistakes around here. You try and overtake, it doesn't come off. You leave yourself open to be overtaken. Or worse, you could end up in the wall out of the race, and all that could have been avoided by just maybe holding your position. And a lot of these guys, that's going to be the unfortunate situation for race 1 here tonight. They're just going to have to put up with where they've qualified and just see if they can gain a couple of places throughout the course of the race. If not, well, settle for what you've got.
Well, the winner likely to come from the top 10 here tonight. In your top 10, of course, on the front row, Bouquet and McCauley. Next row, Jardier and Boothby. 5th place on back, Parker and Lebrecq. Still Vason and Darren King share a row. And Vanka and Pride is your top 10. And if the winner comes from any position other than the ones I just listed, I will be very much surprised. But that all being said, don't count Karsten Piffet, Samard, Lotta Bellassane out in the top 15 either. It could happen. I just don't. It's very unlikely. I basically picked the entire field, Ryan.
Can we just point out how Joe McCauley is so eager to get this race started? He's
He
going in
is.
front of Bouquet, trying to get this formation lap going. And I mean, if anything, if what we've seen from Joe McCauley is that he's raring to go, didn't have a great race at Bathurst, qualified on pole, but then of course encountered issues, lost his
Yes.
force feedback, and I mean, my word, to race around Bathurst for as long as he did without making mistakes, with no force feedback, unbelievable, and was definitely my driver of the day on that occasion. But it was Ismail Lebrec that took all the plaudits for winning the race. But Joe McCauley in the NSX, can he get a better launch than Bouquet alongside him? Can the Honda find itself up in front before the end of turns 1 or 2? And, well, the interesting story is developing behind what will the rest of the grid face. But here we go then. Line up 2 by 2 through the final corner as far as the eye can see. The start line for this race quite far down the main straight.
Oh,
Just
this is
over
agony,
half
Ryan.
the distance, and it is going to be agony for a lot of these guys. The good thing is all of them will be starting on the straight, but all of them so eager to go. And this is going to feel like an absolute eternity as they crawl towards the line. Here we go now. It's ready, and we're green for the start of the first of 2 races here tonight. And look at the start from Bouquet. Phenomenal start from the Porsche, clearly into the lead at turn 1. Did exactly what he needed to do. Slow on the exit, though. This means Joe McCauley's going to have a look. He's going to have the inside for the hairpin. Is this going to be the Honda for the lead of the race? Immediately, it is Joe McCauley up into P1.
Well, a couple of cars in the middle of the pack there had to go to the dirt on the outside of the circuit to avoid trouble. I think they all successfully did so. Nobody there in the mid-pack spinning, but again, several of them fell all the way to the back in turn 3 now. There is an accident with the 72 car. And of course, we're watching James Parker here. Talked about earlier how we thought that he may fall back due to the poor get off of the corner that the Aston has. Well, he kind of lost a position there, but it wasn't cataclysmic by any stretch. But you see he is struggling right now. Cody Pride behind him looking to get that spot. Pride, a big winner there, came from 10th all the way up to 7th place.
Yeah, and one of the losers out here today, Valentin Barrier, the number 72. It's not been his season so far, and it continues to not be his season so far. He's at the back of the pack, about 5.4 seconds now off Frechelle in 25th place. Obviously got caught up with that incident towards the start at the hairpin, I would gather. We'll obviously get more information about what happened, and we'll probably see a replay a bit later on. But Steele Vason, at this point in time, sitting 5th. He's got George Boothby just in front of him. But Joe McCauley will lead them across the line for the first lap. And Bouquet right on the back at this point in time. He's going to be looking to maybe try and take that place back. But he's got to be careful. And if he's going to make a move, he's got to make sure he can make it stick.
Well, I know everybody, whenever they booted up Steam this evening, they were very certain that they were starting ACC Racing Simulator. Well, unfortunately for them, right now, it is ACC Traffic Jam Simulator, and that is pretty much what I expect them to be locked into for the entirety of this race. You talked about the introductory event that we had at Snetterton. It was pretty much the same thing, everybody line astern, and here we are right here with pretty much the same stuff. Joe McCauley was able to make that pass on Bouquet for the lead. Bouquet, of course, now has closed back down on McCauley, and Jardier being rather patient in 3rd place, so can be said about Boothby as well.
Yeah, Jardier just biding his time by the looks of it, and it's the sensible thing to do around here. Darren King, by the way, one of the big losers so far at the start of this race. He qualified 8th, remember. He's down in 20th at this point in time. So he's he was obviously caught up in that incident at the hairpin, and that's cost him a lot. As you can see here, Bouquet just following through, and look how enormous some of the anti-cut curbs are around this track. I mean, you can see here on the front splitter cam, this gives you a fantastic idea of what the Snetterton circuit are like and how aggressive some of these curbs are. Some of these curbs seem to have potholes in them, Jesse.
Yeah, they do, don't they? It's very strange. And we talked about Darren King a second ago. I believe he was the Ferrari I saw that was doing a bit of off-roading. I'm not sure Ferrari makes a rally car, but today that one certainly had done some rallying if he is the car that I am envisioning. But you're right. What Ryan's talking about is these curbs. They're not only vicious because they're huge, but they have holes in them. I don't know if they're drainage holes or what, but they're absolutely massive, and you'll see them today as we go around this circuit. It is the most uninviting thing. And well, they serve a purpose though, don't they, Ryan? They're called anti-cut curbs, and nobody is going to be cutting a corner with those things on the apexes.
I think it was Luke Crane from Actual Vision called them half bungalow-sized curbs, and he's not entirely wrong with that statement.
I like that.
Around here, they are quite enormous, and like you said, some of them they seem to have like potholes in them or something. Especially that one at turn 1, you've got to be very, very careful with that one. Being careful at the moment is quite a few of these guys at the front of the field. Very different to what we saw out at Kyalami or Bathurst. Of course, it was an incident towards the start of the race. The live stewards will be looking at those incidents as we speak, and hopefully they won't have too much to examine here tonight. They'll be hoping for a bit of a quieter night, but obviously with this circuit and the nature that a lot of these drivers have, they want to win, they want to get past each other. That might not last too much longer. We can only hope that the overtakes are clean and that the incidents are minimal.
I gotta say, it was very minimal considering the double file start. I think obviously they'll be looking at Valentin Beria, how he got so far off the track. You would assume he had some help, and not sure what happened to the 38 Ferrari of Darren King. You could almost assume something occurred there 3 wide into turn 1, but certainly they'll be able to figure that out, and we'll know as soon as they do, and we will of course let you know as well. Everything ship shape here in the top 10, especially the top sort of 7 or 8 or so, all in a straight line. But a pass here, Soldatov trying to make a move, could get a move made on him by Belasane. Belasane now runs wide. Maybe he's the one that's going to get passed by Tavrayan. Tavrayan's going to have to go around the outside. Can't quite get it done. Has to fall back in line. And that is the tail of the tape here at Snetterton, isn't it? You have one shot to make that move come off. There's no such thing as a multi-turn move around Snetterton. You have one shot to get it right. And if you don't, well, mom's spaghetti.
Yeah, Snetterton's such a tight and twisty circuit, and a lot of these hairpins work in kind of the opposite way that you'll expect a hairpin to work. And you know, when you look at it, especially at the second corner, we'll probably be able to see it if you go with an onboard when we get around to turn 2 again. But the exit of that hairpin closes in on you, whereas naturally, you know, a lot of the hairpins tend to open up onto a straight. Snetterton, very much the opposite. The circuit gets narrower and narrower on the exit. And of course, it kind of forces anyone making an overtake to kind of make a decision. You have to be on the circuit or off the circuit. And I'm pretty sure everyone would prefer to be on the circuit. And that's where a lot of these guys are keeping their cars at the moment. Obviously, not going too wide over some of these curbs as well. And you can't really use that many of these curbs either. It will slow you down. We've got a car off.
Harry Conway went off there.
Yeah, it was towards Nelson, wasn't it? At the back, the number 28 was off, and I kind of get the feeling that might have been a DNF as quick as I saw.
Belasane just went off. Belasane is now dead last.
Murray's. We'll see
So
what happened.
to
Lost it on his own.
Yeah, Ryan, we didn't talk about that, but that's also a thing. If you push it in that tightening radius corner, which is what that is, you can break traction, and just more problems trying to get it going the right way. The frustration has set in, and all you want to do is get that machine back on the track, and Belasane is going to come into pit road for some service there. But that's really unfortunate. Was fighting inside the top 10, and then all of a sudden now dead last.
So we'll have a little look at
that was big.
Yeah, catching the end of this incident. There is Darren King, by the way. You can see the blue and red Ferrari. A couple of Astons coming together.
So that's interesting.
As we rejoin Simon
Keeble's
Keeble,
off.
going off the circuit. Here's Harry Conway. What happened with him? This may be will paint a better picture of what happened.
Oh,
Oh,
so
the
that
Bentley got
that
tapped
was
as
Darren
well.
King, by the way, that I saw playing Dirt Rally. That was Darren King, but that was completely ancillary to the actual accident we saw. I never saw that. They were clogged
Oh,
up
and
the
speaking of
track.
Darren King, he's gone off again. Darren
Oh
King, he's
no.
off where Harry Conway was off, and you can see there, we'll get a little bit of a replay here. Did he lose it on his own? Or was there any contact? This, to me, just kind of looks like, was it? Oh, yes.
Oh, oh.
Saved it well, though.
That
Didn't
is
go around
super
spinning.
that is super good driving there. He does not want to impact anybody else's race. And instead of blowing through the chicane, he decides to take himself off the circuit there. Excellently driven to do so. That's not easy to keep that car from looping like that, especially when in a corner like that. I mean, it's excellent driving from him, but it's just it's been a bit unfortunate. Bellasane's still in pit road. I don't imagine now that he will be rejoining us for this race. I think he's going to wait for Q2, I think.
Yeah, I think Harry Conway much going to be in the same line of thinking there, just kind of wait until the next one. In other words, here is Bel Hussein. Oh, Aston. Oh, just getting nudged
Oh,
off,
little
and
argy bargy.
maybe. Oh, that was on the first lap of the race, so that was Clement, in fact, in the number 88 in 11th place at the moment, coming together with Bel Hussein. So interesting to see what the stewards will make of that one. I mean, from a first glance at Helicam view, without seeing the inputs, Jesse, do you want to make a decision? Racing incident? Who's at fault?
I I kind of feel like you have to be responsible for your machine, Ryan, and going through a chicane like that, you have to be very wise. If you are going to go side by side, which I'm always in favor of drivers, let the racers race is what I say. But you also have to be responsible for your actions, and in my opinion, you know, so you have to ask yourself, was he responsible for that contact? I mean, I guess you could say he was.
Well, Ismail Lebrec responsible for getting past Cody Pride and demoting the number one
I
into
like that.
8th place, and Ismail Lebrec will like that as well, because that means he's gained a place. And of course, these two teammates, in fact, not really running as teammates in this series, but both of them driving for Triple R, and both of them are going to be competing in the newly announced 12 Hours of Bathurst, by the way. If you haven't heard about that announcement, have you been under a rock in the ACC community? No, I kid. But yeah, we have another 12 Hours of Bathurst coming up, courtesy of Jimmy Broadbent and Jardia wanting to host that one. So, well, we said, sure, why not? And I believe the Invitational split, Jesse, it's going to have multi-class racing. I've heard GT4 cars might even be involved.
Yeah, it's going to absolutely be spectacular. Mike Jones pulled me aside last week and said, "Look, this is what we're working on," and he draws up the races like a mad scientist. So it was just a scribble on a napkin, and I was like, "I don't care." It's like, Mike Jones, I can't read your writing, but whatever it is, I'm in. And multi-class
Jesse's like,
racing,
I'll be
indeed.
there.
Exactly. It's like Bathurst. You got it. I'm absolutely there. So that's going to be absolutely spectacular stuff at the mountain for 12 hours. We didn't get a Bathurst 12-hour this year. I felt a bit, wasn't really that's usually how I start my race season off. That's how I know the season's coming back around. Didn't get that. Well, be glad to have it in virtual form here on RCI, courtesy of the Broadbent and the Jardier. So that all to come at the end of the month. Valentin Beria, talked about him in the 72 going off on the first lap. He has got some of those positions back. Actually, he's only gained one position. Bellasane's in pit road. He has repassed Finchek for the 23rd position. This is Barry looking at the 38 of Darren King. And, well, we talked about it, right? This is what happens when you have a mistake here. It is deadly because it is literally just a train of cars, and that car from Valentin Beria is not driving very well at all.
No, and something that is not going very well at all is Harry Conway's day. Of course, he's retired from the race, unfortunately, but the stewards have judged that, well, that bit of a mess that we saw up at turn 2 on lap 1 was in fact Harry Conway's fault. Had a collision with Tavrayan in the number 59 Ferrari. And of course, that meant that the 316 and the 86 kind of got catapulted into a couple of other cars through no fault of their own. Harry Conway given a 10, well, stop and go 10. So
Ooh, that's severe.
that's not a penalty we usually see
So
out from the stewards.
that's probably because it was on the first lap, I'd reckon.
Yes,
Is why that was quite so severe.
all lap 1 incidents are treated harsher, because obviously you're expected to take a bit more caution. So Harry Conway, unfortunately, picking up a stop and go 10 for his troubles. He's not in the race. He's had to retire, of course, but I'll be curious to know if that will transition over into race 2.
Oh, the 122, Vanka.
Ooh.
Completely sideways there. Oh, that scared me.
I think we're going to be seeing a lot of that here tonight.
Indeed. I think Ryan, what Harry Conway has done is he's given himself a stop. Oh, that's not going to go off well there. I think Lada just misjudged his braking zone and has wiped out Vanka in the final chicane before the front straightaway, and that will draw the ire of the stewards as well. But back to my previous point of Harry Conway, I feel like he gave himself. Oh, Philippe Samard.
So this is
just non-stop action now.
Clement's obviously getting past Samard. There's one bump, and there's 2 bumps, and Samard slows down there. He realizes that's his bad, and he's not going to take that position. Good sportsmanship there.
Yeah, Philippe Samard just assumed that Clements was going to step on the throttle a little quicker than he actually did in the hairpin. He didn't, and realized, oh, I sent you sideways. That's my bad. Go on. But like I was trying to say, Harry Conway, he may have had a stop and go 10, but I feel like he's given himself a stop and go 25, as in 25 minutes.
Yeah, Harry Conway, unfortunately, not continuing on in race 1. We'll hope to see him in race 2, but obviously it will be interesting to see how that penalty will apply. I see we've got the band Geordies out in the chat again. Fez Fox is back, and I imagine the rest of the band Geordie crew are probably watching on as well. Maybe we'll see them a bit more active later on towards the race. Jordan Grant-Smith in 15th place at the moment, not having the best time out there. Where did he qualify, in fact, Jordan Grant-Smith? Qualified 20th, actually, so he's gained 5 places, so not too bad for Jordan Grant-Smith, but considering how well the likes of Bouquet and Van Ack did in qualifying with the Porsche, probably expected to do a bit better in qualifying, but up into 15th place, not doing too bad for himself.
No, he's absolutely not, and there's not a whole lot to hashtag ban Jordy for. He's probably got the biggest gap around him of any other car. He's got 3 seconds to catch up to Soldatov in front, and Vanderneet behind him is 2.5 seconds. So what happens here with Valentin Berria here? I believe that is still Darren King in front of him.
That's actually Tavrayan, I believe.
Oh, is it?
I believe it is. Yeah, that's Tavrayan's car. Ooh.
This is just an overtake there.
Yeah, and Valentin Berria is in the pit lane, in fact, and that kind of looks like race over for Valentin Berria, I would think. There's no scheduled pit stops for any of the cars here today. Grass!
And that's... There it is.
Ooh, Tavrayan.
Nice avoiding action by the other drivers.
Oh, the Porsche as well. Ooh, that was Van Ack, I believe. Not expecting a Ferrari to be stopped there, and yeah, that's Valentin Berria returning to the pit lane as expected, and, well, his season, which hasn't gone well, just kind of keeps getting worse and worse, and, I mean, if you're Valentin Berria at this point in time, you're kind of thinking to yourself, when are fortunes going to turn around?
Yeah, certainly you do. He has had probably about as bad of a season as you could possibly measure. And I feel like every time we say how bad could it actually be, it just seems to get even worse for the man. And you hate that. You hate to see that. You know how good of a driver Berria usually is. And he's usually on top of his game. But this season is not treating him kindly at all. Well, what you're looking at here is your top 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I can count to 9. I watched Sesame Street. Macaulay leading Bouquet. Macaulay getting the lead from Bouquet in the second turn on the initial start of the race. And these three seem to be the class of the field right now. Jardier,
Uh,
go
Jesse,
on.
I've just noticed the number 120 has been disqualified. That's Jordan Grantsmith's car. I wasn't taking the ban Geordie quite literally.
Now, hold on.
But that car has been disqualified by race control, and I'm not seeing anything come through on the penalty report. So that's going to be interesting. I believe I've got word from Mike Jones that it's connectivity issues.
Oh dear.
Yeah, Jordan Grantsmith DQ'd for connectivity
Oh, Darren
issues.
King.
Oh,
Darren King is trying to corner a rallycross market for Ferrari that does not exist. But a very
he's doing a pretty
brave.
good job of it though.
He's not lost it once, but here's the thing: a very brave move around the outside. Had he kept that on the runoff, he probably would have got that spot. Got to be very careful here, getting down into the chicane. There's going to be contact, but position gained. I'd say that's fair move, to be honest.
Well, all sorts of elbows coming out at this point in time. And speaking of elbows out, here comes Jardier around the outside. This isn't going to work, though. The corner tightens up. This is where I said you've got to pick a line. Is Jardier going to go for a dive? Surely not on the inside here. No. Bouquet just having the pace to stick it around the outside.
Oh, thank you, Stewie. I want to see this again. Jardier on the inside. But Bouquet just getting the run around the outside, pinning Jardier to the inside, gets just enough run out of that Porsche to maintain the second place position. And you won't believe this, folks, 0.6 of a second. That's the biggest gap Macaulay's had all night.
No contact in that as well, just hard racing.
Brilliant racing.
You guys, and fantastic to see. I mean, I thought Jardier, he was definitely going to have to pull out at some point in time, but he was committed to try and stick it in there, and credit to both of them for not causing a collision, although Bouquet probably would have hoped that Jardier would have backed out a bit earlier than he did, but I think we all know Jardier, if he's got a sniff of a chance, he's going to try and take it, and these front four have kind of just started to eke away a bit. Steelvason and Parker just dropping off the back of them. But you know what? There's still 9 minutes of this race remaining. Mistakes can still happen. And Christian Larter chasing down Van Ack at this point in time, trying to see if he can get past the Porsche. Porsche's got a bit of damage on the front of it, so that car's been involved in an incident, probably involved in the melee up at turn 2.
Yeah, of course, the 122 was the car that was spun by Lotta in the final chicane turn there. So they're back nose to tail here. I'm pretty sure the 122 not very happy with Lotta currently. Darren King continuing to try and make his way up to the field. He's actually making remarkable progress considering we've seen him off in the dirt 3 or 4 times already. He is fighting Herbert Froschel here for 16th place. King trying to claw back some points here, of course, sort of 18th in the championship, not really fighting for it at a top level, but if you know Darren King, if you know Dalking, he doesn't really care about the points. He's here to win races, so he will fight for every single position, and as well he should, but that battle won by Froschel there for the moment. And meanwhile, the gap was 0.6. It is not that now. Joe Macaulay leading the race over Bouquet. Bouquet now catching back up. Jardier again biding his time in third. We saw Jardier make a move earlier, just barely got beat out for that position. And time is a ticking away. 8:31 p.m. in sim time. 7 minutes and some change to play. Intensity gets ratcheted up, Ryan.
Definitely does, and Joe Macaulay, well, he took the lead of the race early on, and he's done exactly what he's needed to do for 23 minutes. He's got to do it for another 7, and then whatever remains of the final lap of the race. But looking very, very good from the Honda at the moment. And, well, Jardier starting to get into a groove now of putting pressure on the likes of Bouquet, and I'm pretty sure Bouquet's not going to be enjoying this too much.
Well, the in-car cam from Jardier, the Yaz Heat 39. It is looking pretty good. A lot of clean running out in front. Lap traffic not expected to be a part of this, but look at that. The 194 Bouquet gets a terrible entry and exit from the corner. That allows the 39 Mercedes to get right up to the back bumper. But even still, there's not a whole lot you can do unless you're willing to take a dive. I think every one of these drivers up here, Ryan, they will take a dive into the inside or the outside, a desperation move here at the end of the race, but it's not quite that time yet.
No, not quite that time yet, and as the sun continues to set.
Beautiful sunset.
It is. It's lovely sunset around here. Not what we usually see around Snetterton. It's usually cold, miserable, wet, cloudy, all sorts. Anything but sun, usually. But a beautiful sunset has graced us here this evening. And of course, we'll have another race coming up around the same time of day as well. So we'll get to see this all over again for race 2. 11 degrees ambient around here, 11 degrees track, so fairly cool at this point in time. Jardier just losing some time out of the final corner. Now George Boothby is looking interested on the back of the Mercedes.
That is the most Boothby thing I've ever seen. Just peeking out, letting him know, hey, I could try this move anytime I want, buddy. But I don't think Jardier was the one that was slow out of that corner necessarily. I think Bouquet was the one that held up Jardier a little bit, and that threw him into the clutches of Boothby. And like you said, Boothby now very clearly in this battle. 4-car breakaway up front. What happened to Karsten here now? Alexander Karsten.
This is Cody Pride who's chasing. Oh, that's Pride off.
Yes, that is what happened. Okay, so just a little dip off into the grass and position gained. That's the easiest way to get positions around here. Wait for the person in front to make a mistake.
I mean, that's how a lot of these guys have probably gained positions here today. And perfect example there. The 86 is off track at the moment. And that would be Herbert Frischel coming back on circuit now. This is Darren
contact,
King.
I bet.
Oh,
yep, there it is.
No. Oof.
Oh, right into the fence. That is not great. And, well, I hope the stewards weren't expecting to take a break here for qualifying, because I think they're going to have some extra work to do.
I think Darren King at this point in time, maybe just a bit frustrated, getting a bit impatient. And, well, kind of looks like that's definitely going to be investigated by the stewards. I would not be surprised if there was a penalty coming the way of Darren King. And, well, let's say all's fair in love and war, but there are certain things that you can't do out on the circuit, and that probably falls under one of those categories. Meanwhile, out in front, it's still as they were, the leading 4. Joe McCauley from Bouquet, Honzik, and Boothby. And you just get the feeling, as Jardier gets closer and closer and closer, that move he tried on Bouquet, you get the feeling he's going to have one more go before the end.
You know he is, and the best case scenario for Jardier, he's there. He is rooting for Bouquet to get up there and get beside McCauley, because how many times have we seen 2 cars get beside each other and there's contact? Well, if there is contact, Jardier can squeeze through and win the race. So he doesn't want to throw away his chances. He has to be careful. Boothby is right there. And any time that he's held up by Bouquet, Boothby can close in and potentially get the pass on Jardier. Meanwhile, McCauley, wide a little bit there's Bouquet, but not a lot of room to get anything done, further slowing them down. But McCauley maintaining pace out front. That was an excellent start by McCauley, you have to admit, because he knew that this would likely be his only chance to take the lead in earnest. And we are going to come down. I think we may just get 2 more laps out of this race. So 2 more times around, 2 more chances, as Simon Keeble here gets passed up, going for the overcut the long way around. Can't do it. A little bit of a bump down into the inside.
King again.
Yes, indeed. Keeble passing King. A little bit of contact. but not a lot else there in that
I
fight.
tell
But
you what, Jesse, this is going to be the final lap. Not
oh, it
quite,
is. They didn't
not
make it to the
quite going to
line in
get,
time.
not quite going to get another lap. So here we go then, last lap. Well,
You
Jardier,
got to
if you're
go
going to
for it.
use the hairpin, this is going to be your best chance to do so. Van Eck has received a 15-second penalty from the stewards. Late braking for all of those cars. Joe McCauley, he's probably looking in his mirrors at this point in time, waiting to see an accident happen, but nothing going yet. And Jardier, he's not going to have many more chances now.
Ryan, we're going to play a new game. It's called the Late Breaking Championships, and this is the first round right now. Whoever breaks the latest may win this race.
Well, at this point in time, Joe McCauley, looking like the best man out on track, took the lead, exactly what he needed to do. Going to be a very, very different story from what we saw out at Mount Panorama, where he unfortunately had hardware issues and, well, it caused a mistake that meant he lost the chance for a very, very good result, but nothing like that going on here at the moment. Knock on wood, of course, for Joe McCauley as we come down towards the final sector for the final lap of race 1 of 2 here tonight. Looking back, not sure Jardier is going to have much of a chance now to do so. It's pretty much follow the leader once you get into this section of the circuit. He needs Bouquet to make a mistake, realistically, if he's going to make his way up into P2. But P1 looks all but secured for the Scotsman at this point in time. Joe McCauley up towards the final corner. Nice and smooth on the exit. It's going to be as they were. They come towards the line. Joe McCauley wins the first race of the evening, followed by Bouquet and Jardier in third place. Boothby fourth, Vason in fifth. James Parker will come across sixth from Ismail Lebrec in seventh. Karsten eighth, Cody Pride ninth. And Clement will cross the line in 10th, but Simard will be promoted to round out the top 10.
Well, all I have to say is that was excellently raced by the top 4. You could actually probably include everybody back to Lebrec realistically, because they actually did have to race for their position, and fairly clean and well done. And in the end, no desperation moves. Nobody was close enough to make that desperation move. You saw some late braking by Bouquet, but that was, he just wasn't close enough. He could never get the run off the corner. As Joe McCauley, rightfully so, young man, celebrate that win, because that was as hard fought a victory. It may have not looked like it on the cameras at home, folks, but that was about as hard fought as victory as possible. He's going to get a celebratory concussion, which is Sim Racer for good job, buddy.
Yeah, and you can see the final results for the first race of the evening. Of course, Joe McCauley taking the win there for the first event, and, well, the Honda doing very, very well and redeeming himself, but only half points available for the short races here tonight. So Joe McCauley is going to have to do that again if he wants to take home a full rack of points. We move on to practice 2. Just let the guys have a bit of a break, talk it out, maybe discuss some incidents. I see a couple of people maybe heading down towards where Darren King's pit box is. I don't think I think there's a few unhappy people with Darren King this evening.
See, but Darren King isn't the guy I'd pick a fight with. I would, what they're going to do is they're going to get down there. He's going to flex his sleeves off of his shirt, and then they're going to go very, very quietly and politely back to their pits, I'd imagine. But we are in the interim period. A few minutes to shake down your car before quali 2 for race number 2. Joe McCauley, your winner of race 1, and excellently done. Qualified second. And here we go. This is the broadcaster segment. This is the Stewie track tour. We did this actually last weekend at Donington Park, and we're doing it here today. What we're doing, Ryan, is we're taking a look at Kuno's lovely texturing work and modeling work. And on tonight's episode of Why Did They Texture That in High Definition, we are going around to all the trackside objects. Fire extinguisher, completely legible there, denoting the difference between a foam and a water extinguisher.
A fire extinguisher is a fairly important piece of equipment at a racing circuit, so it makes sense that that's highly detailed. Of course, this is the kind of behind the scenes in the paddock area, as you will. A lot of people wandering around. No one wearing any masks.
I recognize these guys from the race last weekend at Donington. They must have all came over from
I
that.
was going to say that they live in the UK, probably want to visit all the British tracks out
Well,
here.
so this is what I'm talking about. This Sunoco Snetterton fuel station box. There is no reason. There's no camera here. There's no reason for this to be legible, but clearly you can read the fueling and the schedule and such.
Super Plus unleaded that sounds pretty good around here for
No,
for
hold
racing.
on a
But you
minute.
can see curbs on the inside of the infield.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's a go-kart track, isn't it, as well, I think, the infield. It is indeed. Yep. It is indeed a go-kart track in the infield. But yeah, I mean, it's so amazing. Like if you go to the trash bins around here, you can see the stickers on there. And this is the man, the myth, the
This is
legend,
Mike Jones.
the flag man.
This is Mike Jones, isn't it?
That is Mike Jones. Are we going to was this the lavatory?
We're going
Yes,
to
this
the
is the
toilets
toilets.
now.
Don't go in there, mate. I think YouTube will give us a strike.
Now
if you
see,
do that.
this is something I want to have a look at here. This is what's absolutely
car
fantastic.
park.
These open like car park areas that you have at so many of these British circuits, and also the tiny grandstands. And we have these at pretty much every circuit but Silverstone. There are these tiny grandstands which have no merit to be. Like, I mean, look at how small this is. I mean, how many people can you fit? It looks like something you'd see at a Sunday League football club. It's absolutely fantastic, and it's great.
Stu, you're not missing anything on track because it doesn't matter anyway. Nice ambulance, properly stickered and all that. Can we go to the nice JCB? Can we go sort of to the statue thing, the man? Yeah, you know what I'm on about. First of all, look at the what is that? Oh yes, of course, obligatory disused Army Air Base, etc. and so forth. But yeah, this is the ticketing.
Well, we
ticketing
have to
box for the
we
entry
have to see
for
the
track.
scary tree.
They call it the scary tree. It's a man, isn't it?
It's the scary tree. So it's down towards the hairpin at turn 2.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure anyone who has seen Snetterton knows this tree. So if you're down here at turn 2, if you turn around, Stewie, you can see.
When I was a youngin,
a bit more to the left, Stewie. A bit more to the left.
When
there
I
he
was
is,
a youngin,
right in front of you. He's sticking his arms out. He's waving at you now.
Yep,
there he is. There it is. The scary tree.
Woo, scary
Now
tree. Oh my god.
Now this
It's animated.
This tree, this tree doesn't exist anymore, Jesse.
It does not.
It was unfortunately lost in a storm in 2020, but because the laser scan was done in 2019, it's infinitely preserved in ACC in such glorious detail, and it's great because when you go on the run up towards turn 2, if you position yourself on the circuit, you get a great view of the little scary tree. There you go. That's the view everyone knows.
So I was told that it's meant to be a person with their hands in the air in victory, but everybody knows it as the scary tree.
It looks like the iRacing logo.
It is quite a scary tree now that we're looking at. And while we continue this track tour, it is important
there as well, down just on the side, helipad. Look at this grandstand. How does this and this this man?
Well,
okay. Well, he's obviously not realized that Halloween is in quite a few more months' time.
Yeah, that's
been out of
definitely
season.
some interesting things there. Like this parking garage. Look at. Okay, nice cars. So basically,
in the meantime, by the way, qualifying is imminent.
It is.
We've moved over to qualifying too.
Yes, and of course, while we have this moment before the laps start to get set, we would like to thank you all for joining us here and hope that you have enjoyed race number 1 and enjoyed the We Wander Around the Track segment. And we'd like to invite you that if you have been enjoying the stream so far, leave a like and subscribe for more GT racing content. Of course, tomorrow evening, we have the the Night Out Championship and the Monday Championship. Ryan will be joining you for that as well. We'd also like to thank all of our partners, Race Department, aka Informatica Speed Labs, and Sim Racing GP, for everything that they do that helps keep us on the track and on the air. All of their information and links in the description. Qualifying 2 for race number 2 just underway, and I think we're going to get that 44.
Well, we were so close, weren't we? We were what was it, 19 thousandths off of it in qualifying 1. Of course, Ismail Lebrec hit it in practice. It's not quite the same doing it in practice as it is in qualifying, and well, we'll await to see if anyone can throw that 44 on the board. And it's going to be George Boothby yet again that finds himself in the position to try and go after that lap time first. He's got Steele Vason hot on his heels, by the way, and I think that's Simard in the background as well. But anyway, here we go then, up towards the final corner. The 666, George Boothby, the Sidemax Motorworks, he will begin qualifying 2 for us. 8 minutes to go as he comes up towards the timing line for the session. And here comes George Boothby all the way down towards turn 1. We've got on this little ride on board again through Riches. Don't go so close on the inside. You can actually see the little dip there in the curb that I mentioned earlier. Up towards the hairpin, there's the scary tree. Fantastic view from the onboard as we go through Montreal. I'll get the corner names correct this time, in the correct order as we head down towards turn 3. This is Palmer. Got to be nice and tight on the left-hand side of the track here. You can run wide, but you don't want to go too wide. Of course, the curve ends rather abruptly. Now towards Agostini, another hairpin on this circuit. Very, very tight. You can get the power down nice and early here. Use as much of this curve as you can. Then you make your way towards Hamilton. Not flat. You're going to have to brake here just ever so slightly. Run wide on the curb if you dare. Then towards Oggies. Nice and tight. Get the car turned around as quick as you can. Then the right-hander, 90 degrees. This is Williams. And on to the Bentley straight. Get a moment of rest around here at Snetterton, but you've got to prepare yourself for the blind corner coming up just in a moment. You're going to have the fast left-hander here. Then you're going to be on the brakes, downshift through the gears. Nelson, avoid the massive anti-cut curb on the right-hand side of the circuit. Make your way through Bomb Hole, completely flat around here, and then this is where the corner really does start to get difficult at Coram. Try and ease off the throttle a bit, downshift through the gear, you can see there from George Boothby. Then into the final corner, which is Murray's. Nice and tight on the inside, don't hit the anti-cut, use as much of the exit curb as you possibly can. Up towards the timing line, George Boothby. It was a 45.4 last time around for his first lap. It's a 45.2 this time around, a much better start for George Boothby.
That's exactly what he wanted to see, and I expect everybody will improve just a little bit with the race under their belt. Everybody all warmed up now. What can Bouquet do as he is now rounding Bomb Hole now? And Decorum, and he has invalidated his lap, so this lap won't count. Just be a warm-up for him. Valentin Berria, we've documented what a rough season he has had. And what a rough first race he had indeed to continue that rough season. He's actually going to pull over right here and let everybody through. And he's going to reset, have a rethink.
Valentin Barrier may be thinking he's not had a great qualifying anyway. He's probably going to start at the back. Might as well just take this time to prepare for the race perhaps. Or maybe he will head out back on track. But Valentin Barrier has got a lap on the board, sits 10th at this point in time. We're looking at Bel Hussein in the number 8 Ferrari as he makes his way around the circuit. Yellow flags for a couple of cars going off track. George Boothby is up on his lap time, by the way. He finds himself on provisional pole. He's up by a quarter of a second at this point in time. And I tell you what, Jesse, it's looking fairly good for the 666. If you can gain a bit more time, he might throw us in to the 44s, and that might be good enough for pole position around here, considering what we've seen from some of the other drivers. But here comes the 666 through the final corner, up towards the timing line. And this is going to be good. 3/10 up. George Boothby, this is the 44 over the line. 44.9.
There it is.
There you go. George Boothby setting the marker down, and Steel Vason will go provisional on the front row of the grid as well, but 4/10 the gap.
Yeah, that gap will absolutely come down. It won't stay there. And shall I say, I think Boothby has an extra 10th in there because he should have been up an extra 10th, but he lost a little bit in sector 2. We heard earlier, or I think we talked about earlier how Ishmael Lebrec and Boothby both lost one of their laps due to a 10th in the middle sector. That happened again, and he still went 44.913 or 914. And Bouquet slots into the second place at a 44.916, which is some very, very tiny amount of time more than Boothby did. Absolutely incredibly close. And again, folks, I don't think we're done yet.
Well, Bouquet definitely putting the pressure on, wants to fix the mistake from race 1, but looking good at this point in time. By the way, where is Joe McCauley, who we kind of mentioned? In fact, Joe McCauley doesn't have a lap on the board at the moment, not a valid one anyway. As the number 18 makes his way around the circuit, this is his out lap as well, so he's going to have 2 laps, Jesse, to kind of put his claim down, get himself onto the front row of the grid if he's going to do a double here tonight. And, well, here we go. Joe McCauley. Is he going to be able to do it? Meanwhile, George Boothby going fractionally quicker. We're into the 44.8s now.
Yeah, he is. He is majorly up. He dominated that turn there. We'll have to see. Like I said, I thought he had a little bit more in the tank. We'll pay attention to that as Bellassane he came across the line. He's going to slide into 9th at a 45.471, his quickest lap. Ishmael Lebrec has invalidated his lap, so he'll have to go around again.
Oh, that's not good for Lebrec because he hasn't got a valid lap time on the board. He's got enough for 2 more laps. Enough time for 2 more laps, sorry. And he's going to have to pull it out of the bag now, basically, for Ishmael Lebrec. Meanwhile, Joe McCauley is on a valid lap, and he's absolutely flying at the moment, or at least it does appear to be. As he comes out onto the Bentley straight, go on board with the Honda, the VTEC OP car. And coming up towards the blind corner now. This corner, it just terrifies me, Jesse. You can't see where you should be braking for this. You can't see that massive anti-cut until it's too late.
Speaking of,
Joe McCauley. Well, one lap to get it right. Because that lap is now invalid. That lap is wasted. Joe McCauley, he's got one more chance if he wants to throw that car into, well, some form of decent starting position for this race. Meanwhile, Ishmael Lebrec, he's coming around and onto the Bentley straight. He's on a valid lap this time around. And, of course, he's not had the best qualifying too at this point in time. He needs to stake his claim as well. Joe McCauley has started his final lap of qualifying, and what a contrast for the 2 Honda boys.
Yeah, it is. One loving it up at the front, one struggling to put in a lap. Ishmael Lebrec trying to get on the board. He will have one more lap after this, but you always want to have a banker lap, something that Ishmael has failed to accomplish yet thus far. Looking all good here, though. Just how far up the board will this slot him in?
Ishmael Lebrec.
12th.
Ooh.
He's got enough. Not very good.
He's got enough time to do another lap. Looks like he has enough fuel to do another lap as well. So Ishmael Lebrec will go back around again.
And by the way, George Boothby did go quicker at a 44.862. So he knocked just about a 10th off of his time 2 laps ago. His last lap was not quicker, and he has decided to go sign some autographs.
I wouldn't mind a George Boothby autograph, to be honest, and I'm sure the fans over there are going to be enjoying it. Joe McCauley, in the meantime, doesn't hit the curb on the inside of Nelson on the final time around. And, well, it is clutch time for Joe McCauley. If he's going to make it work, he has to make it work now. Ismail Lebrec, his lap is over. He's not going to be improving on his time. Joe McCauley through the final corner. This is going to be unbelievable if he can put this onto the front row of the grid with one valid lap. Up towards the timing line he goes. What's it going to be for Joe McCauley? 7th
Ooh.
is the best he can manage. And I don't think he'll be winning race 2 from there.
I don't think you're going to have an opportunity from 7th. I think you're absolutely right. Bouquet, the last bullet to dodge if you are George Boothby, coming around hard around there. He was whipping that thing through there. Did that hurt his time? I suspect it might have.
It's not going to be enough. He is going to
come across the line, and he will not improve. Piffet, I feel like Piffet was one of the last cars across the line last time as well, as Willamont is still on track. And will Piffet prosper from the late run? Yes, he will, all the way into 12th, slots Belisane down to 13th place, and he's going to celebrate in the infield hospital, I believe, after that.
That Lexus has definitely seen better days, but this is the end of qualifying 2. And look at that, Jesse. 3 sectors with personal bests set by 3 different drivers, 3 different manufacturers. Fantastic to see that. But George Boothby, well, he was the quickest man in the second qualifying session, and he'll start on pole position. Bouquet will start on the front row of the grid for the second time tonight. And, well, he'll be hoping that this time he doesn't lose out on the chance to win the race. He'll be starting on the side of the track that Joe McCauley started on. So maybe he's hoping to have a go around the outside and switch back onto the inside, very much like Joe McCauley did. But George Boothby, I'm pretty sure he saw that move go down, and he's probably going to be fully aware of that coming into this second race.
Do you know how sometimes in racing, when you're familiar with your opponent, you have tactics? Are we implying that he learned from that first race start and decided to just let off the throttle a little bit, perhaps? I don't think so. I think that he was going for it, but we have seen that be an advantageous position. So I don't know. Could be a little bit of that as well.
I think it's not worth it though, realistically, for Bouquet, because remember, I know it's half points for the qualifying here tonight. It's half points for fastest lap. It's half points for the race finish position. But you still get points for pole position, and you can't discredit that. Those points will mean a significant amount towards the end of the championship. I mean, before taking into account results here tonight, Jesse, Ismail Lebrec and James Parker were the only 2 drivers to have won a race in the 4 races we'd had prior. Despite that, James Parker only leads the championship by 4 points, and Ismail Lebrec finds himself in 5th in the championship. So it kind of shows that even with the 2 wins that both those drivers have, neither of them, well, one of them definitely not walking away with it. He's finding himself 5th in the championship, but the other one at the top of the table, but like you said, so close at the top. And I think it's going to be this way for the rest of the season. I wouldn't be surprised if we go into the final round of the championship with about 4 or 5 contenders, maybe even more. And, well, with some of the circuits coming up on the calendar, Jesse, it's looking pretty tasty.
Yeah, it is. And the thing is, I know some of you at home are probably wondering, how has Ishmael won twice this season and he's so far down in points? Well, Ishmael's also had bad finish or 2. So, and I think most people have, Ryan. I think that's the great equalizer here is some of these drivers are riding the highest of highs, and they're also chasing the lowest of lows. And you saw that in that race we just did, race 1 here at Snetterton, that misfortune can find you no matter what your skill level, no matter what where you are in the points. And this week specifically is about taking care of your car and yourself and not putting yourself in trouble. And unfortunately, you have to put yourself in trouble to make positions and make time around here. So it is rather unfortunate, all things considered, that some of the races have went the way they have went, but it has made the racing very, Very interesting. Here is your starting grid for race two. Of course, on the pole position, George Boothby out qualified Alban Bouquet by just about half of a tenth. Next row, James Parker and Alexander Karsten. Behind them, Cody Pride and Jaroslav Hanzik. And again, Joe McCauley qualifying down in seventh. He'll share the row with Philippe Samard. And the back half of the top 10, or excuse me, the back two, still Vason and Christian Lotta round out your top 10. And of course, behind them, very little hope of a victory in this race, but still in it, Jordan Grant Smith, Piffett, Bella Sane, Clements, Lebrec, the top 15, Willamont, Darren King, Valentin Beria, and look, Vonka, of course, Tavrayan rounding out your top 20. And what I'm going to call the survive group, Vanderneet, Keeble, Froschel, Soldatov, and Svinchek are your remaining drivers in this race. And a beautiful grid, a beautiful sunset here in the UK, and 30 more minutes of racing to go. And after the way that race number one started, Ryan, you got to be more focused this time by on just safely starting. I think I thought it was fairly clean. Turns out wasn't fairly clean. How do you avoid that from happening a second time?
Well, I mean, as obvious as the answer sounds, as George Boothby pulls away, you've got to be more careful. You've got to be more conservative. I mean, I know I said, you know, one of the best places to gain places is going to be the start, and that's definitely
But that's not
true.
what you meant.
Yeah. I mean, you know, the start is where you're going to be a good chance to gain places, but obviously you don't want to be getting involved in any silly incidents, which is just going to get you a penalty later on. Like I said, live stewarding here tonight. The stewards are going to be looking at everything, and whatever doesn't get given out live in the race will be assessed post-race, and results can change. You know, results at the end of the day will change post-race. The drivers won't like that, but hey, the best way to fix, you know, races not being affected by a post-race penalty, make the race cleaner. You know, all the drivers out there are responsible for the quality of racing, and you know, only they, in a way, we can police it as much as we like, but you know, only they can make the racing cleaner or worse, as we've seen. But I think, you know, everyone's just got to be more conservative, be a bit more careful, and just think to yourself, look, it's 30 minutes. You know, I'm not really going to have a great chance to overtake. If I see a position, if I'm alongside someone on the inside going into one of these corners, okay, go for it. But if you're not finding yourself in that position, maybe just back out and think better of it and reassess over the next 30 minutes.
Well, speaking of post-race penalties, 15 seconds for the 102, warning for the 42, and a 15-second penalty for the 38 were the post-race penalties handed to me by Tom Bryant. And you will definitely wish to avoid those here in race two. Race one was a bit of a madhouse in the middle of the field, and well, Darren King turned a Ferrari into a lawnmower. Not sure that's a brand, but it's definitely the most expensive lawnmower I've ever seen. But all things being told to Darren King sitting in pit road.
He didn't hit drive on the start. When the counter hit 0, he had not hit drive, so that has meant that Darren King is going to have to start from the pit lane. And Darren King, who obviously wasn't having the greatest of races and the greatest of evenings here tonight, obviously got caught up in quite a few incidents in race one, some of which are probably going to have to be assessed post-race. Not really having a great time out towards the start of race 2. But here we go then. Lovely scenes around here at Snetterton as we get ready for race 2 of the evening. It's going to be a different car on pole position.
Shall we assume they're going to be very calm?
Oh dear, Jesse.
I don't think so either.
Jokes aside, it is George Boothby and Alex Albon Bouquet, or Alex Albon Bouquet, on the front row for race 2. The Porsche lines up on the opposite side of the grid this time round. The Ferrari Evo Cup winner lines up on pole position. The crawl towards the line reaches its finale. Van Ack has received a drive-through penalty for being out of position on the start, but that doesn't mean anything to the guys up in front. It's going to be inside for Boothby, outside for Bouquet. They're going to run side by side. George Boothby is going to force the Porsche to go to the outside line. He's going to try and make it through. James Parker looking very, very interested as well, but George Boothby has done exactly what Bouquet failed to do in race 1, and he's held his place. Meanwhile, Jardier has got Joe McCauley for company, but not quite able to do so.
Excellently held by Boothby. He needed to be perfect up front to make that come off. Otherwise, there would have been contact. There could have been dramas, but well held. Boothby takes the lead officially and is trying to check out and has a 0.3 of a second lead. What can Bouquet do for a rebuttal? Meanwhile, Alexander Karsten here looking to get by Pride. Pride and, yes, Karsten and Pride, I think, coming together there. Now, who is that he came together with?
I'm entirely sure Cody Pride from 4th place as Carsten. Ooh, Steel Vason just getting onto the back of the McLaren. Cody Pride not liking that too much. And oh, here we go. Conga line all together now as we get towards the corner here. No one running into the back of each other. That looks pretty good. There was a couple of cars not getting a great start to the race. You can see Darren King all on his own at the back, having to start from pit lane. But overall, this has been a much cleaner start to race 1 as George Boothby comes through the final corner and he'll lead us over the line at the end of lap 1.
Yeah, the bumps very minor in comparison to race number 1, and no big pile up that we are aware of. Didn't look like it. Didn't even see a yellow sector at all. So all things considered, fairly nicely done. 1 lap in, Bouquet chasing Boothby, no change, still about 3.5 tenths. The gap there. James Parker, though, the 888 Aston Martin, the one that potentially could be leaving here with the points lead today. And he is riding right on the back of Bouquet, trying to stay out of trouble. Jardier in 4th place here. Now, last race, he was trying to figure out how to win this race from 3rd. Now he's got to figure out how to win it from 4th if he is going to do that. Meanwhile, Bella Sade following Jordan Grant Smith, hashtag ban Jordy for real in race 1. Had a wry chuckle about that in the chat in between the races. Wi-Fi not doing him any justice. Ryan Gill earned himself a disqualification. He seemed to laugh it off, and he's back. Happy to say his internet not on Wi-Fi, just fine now.
Yeah, looking a lot more stable, and of course Jordan Grantsmith will be a lot happier about that as well. Meanwhile, Bel Hussein can see Valentin Barrier behind him. This is probably the highest up Valentin Barrier has been all season, 13th place, and it's not usually where we expect to see Valentin Barrier. We expect him to be much further up the grid, but all things going well for the moment, knock on wood for him, because he definitely needs some luck at this point in time. But George Boothby still leading the way, maybe starting to try and pull a bit of a gap here. But James Parker has found himself in 3rd place. He's definitely going to be looking to capitalize on a good result this evening, try and see if he can retain that championship lead. But looking further back, it's just a complete train at this point in time. The car's breaking up slightly, but still plenty of cars involved in battles at this point in time. And now Joe McCauley has Cody Pride for company.
Yeah, Cody Pride trying to get by McCauley. McCauley not where he would really like to be. He would like to be a little bit further up the field. Very important for him in 5th, not to make any mistake, to try and claw back up that gap to Jardier in 4th place and not look too much in the mirror at Cody Pride. The battle has to be focused in front now, and especially after race 1, you always want to capitalize. It wouldn't be the end of the world if McCauley finished 5th here, though I suspect he would like to at least gain a position or 2. Boothby ever so slightly walking out just the tiniest of margins to Bouquet. Everybody in the top three positions about half a second away from one another as everybody jostles for position and tries to see where the breaking points are. It's going to be very important in 25 minutes time to know exactly where your breaking points are, as you see Cody Pride drive right up to the back of Macaulay there in the chicane. That could be advantageous for him at the end of this race if he could do that with an opportune move. You never know.
Word I'm getting from Mike Jones at the moment is George Boothby is the quietest he's ever seen him on his stream, and that probably speaks to the focus that George Boothby has right now. He knows that Bouquet is going to be chasing him down all race long if he can't get his head down and start to pull away. The Porsche doing very, very good here. And if Bouquet can, string together 2 second place finishes here tonight, that'll do wonders for his championship position. But of course, he would like to have a win to his name. This is Ismail Lebrec and Valentin Barrier down towards turn 1. What happened here? And Valentin Barrier just sticking in front, and Ismail Lebrec in 14th place. Not where he'd like to be considering his position in race 1, but still plenty of time to make up some places. Some guys make some mistakes, but so far, Jesse, everything's been much cleaner. I wonder, is everyone watching the broadcast here tonight, listening to my pre-race advice?
I imagine potentially so. The 22 just retired, I think. No, he did not. Or did he? Do we have a 22 in the race? I just saw the number 22 disappear off the screen. I'll have to do some checking on that myself. Okay, so Karsten is the individual that was involved in the Cody Pride incident, as Belisane is going to try and go around here and get the position. Ferrari on Ferrari violence here, and he gets the pass on Valentin Barrier now. Ismail Lebrec thinking about capitalizing. What I said, but the other way around, Barrier was trying to overtake Belisane, and now Barrier very much in the clutches of Ismail Lebrec right now. Ferrari versus Ferrari. Hard to pick between the two of them, honestly.
Yeah, and Barrier's going to be looking up towards turn 2 realistically if he's going to have a move. There's going to be nothing doing into turn 1. Was nowhere near close enough, but Belhassain got a... Well, I'm not really sure that Belhassain got a better exit, but Barrier just looked slower, and that wasn't going to give him any chance into turn 2. Kind of just meant that Barrier had to back Ismail Lebrec into Willemot, and Van den Eet as well, just getting a bit onto the grass. But yeah, the number 22 of Karsten, who qualified very well, unfortunately retiring from the race early on, so that's a big shame for him.
It is, and up front, Boothby has carved out the biggest lead we have seen of the night. It's only 0.7 of a second. But even still, that is the biggest margin between first and second that we have seen. As Valentin Barrier continues to work on Belisane, the gap restored behind. Lebrec about half a second or so behind. And these two do continue to duke it out themselves. Meanwhile, hashtag ban Jordy looking to give up that position, in fact, to Clements. Clements getting the move done. Looks like Grant Smith just let him go.
He let him go, and I think he maybe expected the Aston to go through the corner a bit quicker than it did. And, well, nothing going there. Jordan Grant Smith did let the position go. That'll demote him to 10th. But much better than being disqualified, so I think he'll take a top 10 position at this point in time in the race. Meanwhile, further up, Cody Pride chasing down Joe McCauley. And Joe in 5th place at the moment. 2.1 seconds separates him. So it seems like the front 4, again, just kind of detaching themselves from the rest of the grid. And maybe we're going to see those front 4 all kind of tied together again. And of course, of the front 4 that were in race 1, the only one that wasn't part of that quadruple was James Parker. Of course, that was substituted by Joe McCauley, but Well, we'll have to see what James Parker can do up front at this point in time. Currently sitting third, not doing too bad for the championship leader.
No, he's not. And gonna go back to a replay. Contact on lap 2. This is the 64 Soldatov going into the hairpin turn 2.
Ooh.
Oh, big bunch up. That's ugly there. A
That was
couple of cars
Karsten.
around. That was Karsten. Couple of cars around. Soldatov right in the middle of that. And that was about as ugly. That looked pretty much like that incident we saw turn 1 or turn 2 lap 1
I'm
of the last
wondering.
race.
I'm wondering if that was. Judging by that, I mean, it could just be late on the brakes, but judging by the way that car reacted, that might have been brake failure. Maybe hardware related brake failure. Obviously, not brakes in the car. I wouldn't expect his brakes to have overheated and cooked off at this point in time in the race, but maybe a possible hardware failure for the likes of Karsten there, because that was. I mean, the car was braking, but it just wasn't slowing down.
Yeah, that's, I mean, you have to position yourself to get a pass done. Speaking of that, Jardier has had enough of riding behind James Parker. They're going to go side by side into one. Nothing doing here. There's going to be a bump. He's going to wiggle onto the apex. Jardier has to slow down and stop to try and gather the car back up. Luckily, he has a massive gap behind him. He's able to do that. There will be just a tiny smidge of damage on the front of that Mercedes, but what a save. I would love to at some point, thank you, Stewie. I'd love to see that again at some point. This is Grant Willamont, and this is going to be contact here between him and Ishmael Breck.
But James Parker, James Parker, by the way, you saw the car get unsettled. He hit the dip on that curb. There's a horrible hole. There's a horrible hole and horrible dip
hole
on the second part of that curve. And if you hit it, just like you saw James Parker, the car will, it'll lose control. Fortunately for James Parker, or at least fortunate on his end, Jardier was there to kind of catch him.
Oh,
but I'm pretty sure Jardier wouldn't be too happy about that.
Pride.
Here comes Cody Pride, and well, that looked fairly easy for a McLaren passing a Honda, and I'm wondering if maybe Joe McCauley made that a bit easier.
Well, McCauley went off the track, Ryan, and it sort of slowed him down, and Cody Pride was able to get around him quite easily. But I was just thinking, Ryan, because you called it, what'd you call it? Did you call it something hole or something like that?
It's a horrible hole. It really
horrible
is.
Hole. So we've got bomb hole and horrible hole.
We probably should have looked at it in the practice session when we had the time to do so. But maybe we'll get another chance to see it later on in the race. But meanwhile, Clements, by the way, he's in 10th place. Now, Jordan Grantsmith has got back ahead of Clements because we did see the Aston Martin pass the Porsche. So Banjordi got that place back after giving it up rather easily. And here comes Valentin Barrier, by the way, still trying to find a way past Belhasek. And
he's going to try it here. That's going to come to blows, and it's going to be Ishmael Lebrecht turning Willamont there, and he's going to keep that position. I don't know how the stewards are going to look at that.
That was
Ishmael Lebrecht going up on the curb. Hard to argue that there was space there, and keeps going.
A switchback attempt gone wrong there. There just wasn't really the space on the inside. There's an anti-cut curb there as well to add to Ishmael Lebrecht's misfortune. And well, that of course means that
Willamont in the background flashing Ishmael Lebrecht. Do you think he's steaming a bit?
I wouldn't be surprised if there were some choice words in the moment that incident happened. And honestly, Ishmael Lebrecht hasn't given back the position. I would not be surprised at all if there's a penalty coming his way.
That wouldn't surprise me as well. Vanderneet, who started well near the back of this field, outside of the top 20, did Vanderneet, and he is inside the top 15, threatening 14th place. Meanwhile, this going on here, that's going to be a bump. That's going to be a major bump. Who was that? Was that Piffet and Lada?
That was Christian Lauter, and I believe that was Keeble.
Oh, that is Keeble. That is Keeble and Lada.
See, obviously, Herbert Frechelle was getting past Keeble, And at that point in time, of course, Frechelle and Keeble are traveling so much slower through that corner than they usually would be because there's an overtake going on. And of course, Christian Larter just did not take that into account when he braked. And
Oh, dear.
unfortunately ran into the back of Keeble. And I think, judging by the way Keeble's car has taken a while to get going again. In fact, it's still lodged there, and yeah, it's returned to pit lane now. I think that's Keeble's race over for the day, which is a big shame.
Yeah, it sure is. Soldatov gets a 5-second penalty. And there goes one of the Sunoco boards as somebody must have been well off course to hit that board. Didn't see exactly who that was.
I hate to make the joke, but I hope that wasn't Darren King and his Ferrari Rallycross adventures again. We have seen that a few times tonight, but Darren King actually not doing too bad for himself. He's worked his way up to 19th position, hasn't really had too much to do, and well, finds himself just 1.3 behind Soldatov, which means he will go up to 18th place if he can retain himself within 5 seconds of the number 64. Meanwhile, further up the front of the field, Cody Pride has Steele Vason behind. And, I mean, Jesse, we were talking about the new tracks that we've got here for the calendar, of course, the British GT tracks. How about liveries as well? This livery, one of the default liveries for British GT, the Balf Motorsport McLaren, fantastic. Lovely red livery for this car. Great to see some more representation from the McLaren. Here comes Steele Vason, by the way, closing, and closing. Not quite able to get right on the back of Cody Pride. Doesn't look like he'll have a look into the hairpin, but he's going to get so close because he's Samad in the background as well. He's eager to try and make a pass if possible as well.
This is the seat that I like to be in. The third guy in line watching the battle in front, and you are the one that always gets to pick up the pieces when they inevitably come together in a close quarters battle like this. I will never say that I've ever wished ill will on any of my competitors in sim racing before, but it also doesn't hurt my feelings when they come together either.
Jesse Lee, I've known you long enough to know that that's a complete lie. And
No. I don't wish ill will. I just don't care if they crash.
Well, we'll have to reassess that. Meanwhile, there's apparently an incident between the 49 and the 86. Gonna have a little look at this. So this is Herbert Frechelle and Van der Neat. This is down in towards turn 1. Ooh. Frechelle on the inside. Just tapped with Van der Neat and not quite going on the grass. Managing to avoid that much. And speaking of, that's Joe McCauley coming back onto the circuit. This is Bel Hussein just coming onto the back of him. Here? What happened here? Did Joe lose it? Oh, did the same thing Darren King did.
Darren King did. Yeah, he sure did. Just got in there a little too deep on the brakes, looped it around, and that's so easy to do. Jordy.
So Clements, you can see Clements as well. He's fallen behind Bel Hussein, so Clements has lost a significant amount of time.
Yes.
Because he was right behind Jordan Grant Smith, so no fortunes coming out for the 88 Aston Martin, and even less so for Joe McCauley, who now finds himself, well, on the back.
Oh, look at Clements.
Oh, Valentin Barrier as well. All sorts of action going on, and Valentin Barrier making up the place on Clements. He's thrown himself into 11th.
That's the easiest way to make up positions. If somebody's going to make a mistake, if they're going to run into the dirt, obviously there's no grip out there. Obviously, it's not advantageous to be on the grass. It's going to slow you down. It's just easy. Like, it's the easiest way to get beside somebody. And pass made there. Valentin Barrier using the grass as his ally, getting a spot here. Spot made up.
Well, capitalizing on other people's mistakes, it's one of the best ways to gain places around here at Snetterton because legitimate overtaking chances are not that common. And Bel Hussein now looks in his mirrors and says, oh my word, Valentin Barrier is there again. I thought I'd got rid of you for at least a couple of minutes, but no luck, it would seem, coming Bel Hussein's way. And Joe McCauley, who did have that incident on his own whilst chasing down Giardia, just pulling away from the likes of Bel Hussein. So Obviously, no damage on that Honda, and Joe McCauley's pride hurt a bit, but his pace not at all.
Yeah, I'm a silver linings kind of guy, and for Joe McCauley, he's still inside the top 10. Is he where he probably should be? No, but he is still inside the top 10. And if there was anything, it's he's going to get a boatload of points here today. As Ishmael Lebrecht sets his sight on Clements here for the 12th place position. Of course, we saw this time by last lap, the double 88 was off into the grass right about here. Does not repeat that mistake a second time. And Ishmael Lebrecht sitting there going, "Oh, come on, you did it for Barry, do it for me."
Yeah, I was going to say Clement's day getting not so great and getting worse as more drivers just seem to come onto the back of his car looking to get past him. Under 10 minutes remaining of this race at this point in time. George Boothby, 1.5 second gap to Bouquet. He's pulled away. And Bouquet and Parker have got a 2.6 second gap between themselves as well. The top 5 all just starting to space themselves out a bit now. And it's looking like, well, barring any mistakes, the order for the top 5 is pretty much set. Darren King still looking for a way past Soldatov as he goes to recover.
Ooh.
There goes the little tyre wall. Those things, of course, not solid. And probably a good reason, especially the one at Donington Park and Alton Park, which people have been having a knack of knocking out of the way. Meanwhile, here comes Ismail Lebrecht. Wow!
I
not
can't believe.
quite
Oh, here comes the comeback. He got off the track.
I thought that looked late on the brakes, and it definitely was. Ismail Lebrecht, look at this.
For a split second, Ryan, I thought he was going to make it.
This was a dive and a half, just misjudged the braking point, sends it on the inside, but then he can't slow the car down enough, and he's just going to go off track, and Clements will say, thank you very much. I'll go back in front, and you're going to have to try that again. Oh. Steele Mason's off. So what's happened here? So Steele Mason chasing down Cody Pride for 5th. What's happened here? Goes towards the inside. He's going to have a dive. Oh, just contact.
Gets cut off, mate. Just gets cut off. Oh, no.
He avoids a horrible hole on the inside, but not in the way he would like to avoid it. And Darren King now up on the inside of Soldatov, and that looks like it's going to be place done. Yep, Soldatov not going to challenge that. He's got a 5-second penalty anyways. And Darren King, this is just assert dominance. Opponent goes slightly wide, and then, ooh.
Ooh, good close racing, though.
Look at that.
That's brilliant. That's probably the cleanest pass we've seen all evening. Speaking of clean passes, they have come at a premium, and our head steward Tom Bryant is waving a paper at me. So just to keep you updated on what's happened.
We should welcome Tom into the box. By the way, he's new around here. Recently got promoted.
Indeed. Well, Tom, he is the bearer of bad news, though. Warnings for cars 22, 86, 962. And a 5-second penalty for the 64 for an incident with the 59, and a 5-second penalty for the 59 for a incident involving the 67, the 316, and the 64. And that was that big kerfuffle we saw in turn 2.
And here's a replay. Ooh. Clements.
Clements has been off track as much as in this race as much as Darren King was in the last race.
Do you think Aston Martin are now starting to invest in the in the Rallycross program?
Well, I tell you one thing: if there was one auto manufacturer today that was going to make a lawnmower that doesn't already make a lawnmower, Honda, I would assume it would be Aston Martin.
Well, Ferrari aren't making any lawnmowers at the moment, but Valentin Barrier would probably start hoping that Belhassain turns that Ferrari into a lawnmower. So he's been stuck behind him for the majority of this race, only 6 minutes to go. But this would be finish of the season for Valentin Barrier so far. An 11th place finish would be a great result for him, considering how poor things have been so far.
Oh,
Clements,
there he goes again.
Going off track again. Here is Ismail Lebrecht on the inside. Oh, but Clements is going to hold it. Is he going to hold it? Coming back into tight right-hander, but not going to have it. Ismail Lebret gets the move done. The Honda says, thank you very much. Clements will be frustrated, and now the Bentley behind will be eyeing up the Aston Martin for dinner as well.
Well, Clements is in free fall from the field, but everybody else is asking for second helpings at the dinner table. Speaking of second helpings, Valentin Berrier, Ryan just talked about how he was having a good day for the first time all season, it seems like. He is hunting Bellassane down for the 10th place position. How mega would this be for Berrier in the 72 Ferrari if he could somehow pull off a top 10 and sort of it doesn't overdo or overthrow all the wrongs that have happened this season, but it is a very large step in the right direction. I think you would all agree that Valentin Berrier very much has the pace over Bellassane right now. It is Ferrari versus Ferrari might in the dying moments of this one. 4 minutes and 40 seconds to go. I think he can pull this move off. I think he actually has the power, Ryan, on his own accord, without a mistake from Bellassane, to make this pass.
Yeah, the day going much better for Valentin Berrier in race 2. The same could be said for Jordan Grantsmith in the Porsche, 8th place at the moment. He's on the back of Steele Vason, possibly a 7th place on the board at the moment, or in the cards maybe, for hashtag #BanJordy fans in the chat, as the 120 starts to close that gap down ever so much. He'll be thankful that his internet connection isn't going to get in the way of him and a decent finish at this point in time, knock on wood. But less than 4 minutes to go. The top 5 look pretty comfortable at this point in time. Jardier slowly closing in on James Parker, but I don't think it's going to be enough for any sort of attempt in the last few minutes of this race. As a McLaren off, that was Cody Pride.
That was Cody Pride, yeah.
Cody Pride making
he just wrecked again. So
Cody
what happens
Pride,
to Cody
he's
Pride?
Done
He
the
Darren
Joe
King's
McCauley
it.
And the Darren King. Well, we're going to have to name that after someone at some point in time. As Joe McCauley's done that this race, and then did he just loop it coming back on track? Yes.
He gets over the curb, and
curb.
He has dirty tires, and yeah, he just loops it again.
And
it's unfortunate,
that's
Cody
out of the top
Pride.
10.
Yeah, it's so, folks, it's so easy to ruin your race. We talked about it all day, and I'm sure somebody rolled their eyes and went, yeah, right. It's not that easy, but it is that easy. You just saw somebody who was solidly inside the top 10, and now
Inside
they're
the top 5 even. Cody Pride
yeah,
was fit.
indeed. Yep, and now that's completely gone away for the number 1 McLaren. But well, for Valentin Berrier, he's going to probably finish inside the top 10, even if he doesn't pass Bellassane now. So just looking up for the 72.
Yeah, but the way Valentin Berrier will treat that, he won't treat that as in, okay, I'm in the top 10, I can ease off now. He'll look in front and say, well, there's P9. So that's how he's going to be treating it.
True.
And Valentin Berrier won't be easing off at any point in time. The same way Jordan Grantsmith will be trying his best. He's lost a bit of time to the likes of Steele Vason, though. Meanwhile, Piffer, further down the order, on the back of Van der Neat. The fluorescent green Aston Martin chased down by the default livery Lexus. Of course, Piffert for Team Fordzilla had a couple of not-so-great qualifying, and hasn't had the best of time out in the race as well, but coming into these closing stages, that car is a bit beaten up as well. A few scratches on that Lexus that weren't there when he received it this morning.
Yeah, he's definitely been in the wars, has Piffett, and he's not done yet trying to get this position from Van der Neat, who has, I feel like he's been passed a couple of times in this race, something that with that Aston not to his liking. Meanwhile, Joe McCauley has caught Jordan Grant Smith, and here we go.
Oh,
Heroic move into turn 1, gets it done, and keeps it moving.
I kind of wonder if Jordan Grantsmith maybe gave that up. It didn't look like he was willing to defend it too much.
He didn't fight too hard, did he?
And I maybe wonder if he thought, if I don't let Joe through, he's going to try something that's probably not going to end well for the both of us. And
Speaking of trying something,
Jaroslav Honzik, yeah, right on the back of James Parker. I did say I didn't think he'd have enough time to get right onto the back of James Parker. I'm clearly been proven wrong.
that's Jardier in a
And
nutshell. Every time I talk about him, he proves me wrong. He did last the first challenge and all sorts of things. So I just at this point I've just given up with Jardier. I
Matt
just assume he can do
Samuel,
whatever he wants.
Matt Samuel in the chat. People going for the Joker lap around here as well. Nice to see the rally
Are,
jokes,
are
the
they
rallycross
okay? I
jokes
like
in
it.
there.
I like it.
And this is going to be it. By the way, this is the final lap. This is going to be the end of the race. George Boothby. It's going to be a win here tonight. Two different winners for the fourth round of the championship. Bouquet will collect a second place. James Parker will hold on for third. Jardier will collect a fourth place. Fifth for Philippe Simard as well. His run of consistent finishes continues. Steele Vason, Joe McCauley, Jordan Grant-Smith, and Belt Hussein will hang on to ninth with Valentin Barrier, first top 10 of the season. Cody Pride throws his McLaren into the wall out of frustration in 11th.
Indeed. Yeah, that was absolute frustration from Cody Pride over the line. Lebrecht 12th, Clements 13th, Willamont 14th for Shell, 15th. Vanderneet comes home in 16th. Darren King 17th, Piffet 18th. Soldatov will probably shuffle out into 19th with his 5-second penalty. Lada across the line completes the top 20. Here's Vanka coming to get the checkered flag. The only car behind him still on the track, or Lada, excuse me, the only one behind Vanka is Svinchek, who is still out there. There he is, the 107 Bentley. Bentley's did not have a good run of it here today, Ryan, but, well, there's always next week. And here's what I'm thinking. I like the UK. The UK is quite nice. Why don't we stay here a few weeks?
I can get behind that. I mean, I live here, Jesse. I can always get behind spending some more time around here. By the way, if you have a little bit of a look, I think the 1 and 2 in the race tonight are just having a bit of a formation flying home. George Boothby and Bouquet. And George Boothby's actually pulled over just as I've said that. But James Parker has apparently received a 5-second penalty right at the end of the race. I'm not sure. Well, actually, no, I kind of do have an idea what that might be for. But that's probably for the incident with Jardier. In fact, it is. Lap 7, turn 1. The 888 involved with the 39. That was the incident that had Jardier going off on the track.
So that'll promote Jardier up to third place then.
It will. That does mean that Jardier will finish on the podium. There will be some post-race penalties to sort out. I do believe, but well, two exciting races done tonight, and like you said, Jesse, yeah, fancy sticking around in the UK for a while, because next week we've got the big one. And it's the big one for this championship. It's the 2 hours of Silverstone in this championship. There's one 2-hour race. And it is going to be next week, March 12th. We'll be here for 2 hours of racing, the longest race on the calendar. And of course, Silverstone was where the pre-qualifying for this championship was undertaken. Familiar territory for a lot of the drivers out here today. Fantastic circuit as well. And of course, we'll be looking forward to that. But if you're looking forward to some action in the meantime, in between now and next week, well, we've got Night Owl coming up tomorrow. Jesse Lee, you'll be back in the box for that one. And some late night racing. I believe you'll be out at Imola for the second round of the championship for Night Owl. That one's starting later, of course, in the evening. And then I think on Monday we'll return with the British GT Championship. We'll be out at Brands Hatch for a 60-minute sprint race. Multi-class racing going on there as well. GT3s and GT4s on display. A break on Tuesday. Of course, we do have a break on Sunday as well. Forgot to mention that. But we do have a break on Tuesday. Then Wednesday, the Diamond Drive Cup returns. We had a rather chaotic round one. at Alton Park, and they'll be heading to Kyalami for round 2. Thursday Championship for the GT4s sees them go to Zolder. No live stream for that, unfortunately, but plenty of racing action for the drivers involved. And then, of course, on Friday, we'll return for 2 hours of racing at Silverstone. And, of course, that won't be the end of our adventures here in the UK for the GT3 World Championship, as Donington will be coming up later in the season as well. But all of that to come in the future. Back to the present here. Big thank you to Race Department, AK Informatica, Raceface Speed Labs, and Sim Racing GP for making all of this possible. Big thank you to all of you guys out here tonight in the fans. Hashtag #BanJordy, we see you. And of course, we look forward to seeing all of you back here.
We didn't actually want to ban Jordy.
No,
That was never the plan. And I never thought I'd see the day where that happened, but here we are.
But embracing the #BanJordy nonetheless. But anyway, big thank you to everyone out here tonight. You guys make the support worth it. Do leave a like and subscribe if you think the stream was awesome. Lets us know if we're doing a good job. And if you have any constructive criticism, leave it in the comments. We do always read the comments. And of course, from everyone here at RCI, Stewie behind the cameras, Jesse Lee, and myself in the commentary box, the stewards that have done a fantastic job here tonight, and everyone else at RCI, thank you very much, and enjoy the rest of your evening.